and welcome to The Pink Seat. I am so glad to have you here with us on another day, and I'm really excited for what we're going to be talking about today. So today's conversation, today's topic is going to be a little more specific because we are going to specifically be talking to moms. And not just moms, but moms that have kids that are home right now during this crazy time that we are all in for quarantine. So if you're joining us from maybe any state other than New York, you might be in a little different situation than we're in. But I think pretty much as a general rule, most of the states across our nation have either closed schools or have moved to a distance education or an e-learning. And so there are hundreds of thousands of mothers who are now homeschooling their children in essence. And so today I have a special guest who's going to be chatting with us about some of the challenges and some of the rewards and blessings that come with that. And as moms, we know that children are a blessing. Psalm 127 Verse 3 says, "See, children are a heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward." And there's no doubt, there's no question that children are a blessing. But we can start to question that when you're home with them all day long, especially when that's something that's out of your normal routine or something that you're not used to. And before Mike and I had kids, I really glorified the idea of what it would be to stay home with my kids. And before I go any further into talking about this particular topic, I just want to give a precursor to say, some moms choose to work full-time and have their kids go to school. Some moms completely homeschool their kids. Some moms do a combination. And first of all, I just want to affirm you, Mom, that whatever decision that you've made for your family, to feel good about, to feel confident in that, and to know that God has a different calling on every specific mom and every family. So I know that we are all doing the best we can to fulfill God's calling on our lives. And before we had kids, Mike and I would often talk about, what would we do for our kids for education? And we really felt like we would handle every child as an individual person, and we would come to that decision when the time came. So up until a few months ago, all of our kids have gone to some kind of private or public school. My middle daughter went to a Christian school for 1 year, and then she's been in public school for the rest of her education. My oldest daughter has been in public school with the exception of about maybe 6 months ago, we decided to start homeschooling her for some personal reasons. And we've been really happy with that decision that we've made. But now many of us have had the decision made for us that we are all homeschooling. So I want to introduce to you my guest on the Pink Seat. Her name is Brandy Elrod. And I met Brandy several months ago when her and her husband and their 3 children moved here from Virginia to be our youth pastors. And we have been so honored to get to know them and to have them here as part of our team. So Brandy, welcome. Thanks for being here with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me here.
So you have 3 kiddos. Can you tell us their names, their ages, and are you going to have any more?
Yeah, so I have 3. I have a 12-year-old, Lily, and I have a 9-year-old. There's my 4-year-old. Can you go
Speaking
upstairs?
of which. That is okay.
So yeah, we have a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 4-year-old. So daughter, son. Yeah.
And
no
you didn't ask. No plans. Okay. Inquiring minds, So you have 3 kids, and 2 of them are like school-age children. So how long have you been homeschooling as a family?
Well, we homeschooled our oldest 2. We homeschooled them. My eldest was through first grade, and then we moved, and they entered into a private school. So they were in private school for 4 years. And then when we moved here, we decided to make the jump back into homeschooling.
Okay. So you started out homeschooling, kind of took a little break, and now you're back at it again. Why did you first with Lily? What was the deciding factor? What made you start homeschooling with her in the first place?
So, Jared's schooling was mostly homeschool, his upbringing. He did go to public school for his high school years and a little bit in early elementary. And I had mostly public school education. I did do a little bit of homeschooling scattered in there, but I came from mostly my mom was a single parent home, so it was hard for her to do that full term or all the time. And so both of us had a history with homeschooling, and Jared had great experiences with it, and it was just something that we started feeling like as Lily started getting older was probably what God was impressing on us for our family. So we both had, we had experience with it. It was in our family, and it just seemed like as it got closer to that time for Lily to go to school, it just became more and more like that was the choice that we were leaning towards.
It's funny. I feel like I always have loved the idea of staying home with my kids, and before I had children, I thought I would be incredible at it. I thought I would be super organized. I would be like the perfect balance, right? Like I would not just be fun and spontaneous, but I would also be organized and routine. Like I would have this picture perfect. And I think sometimes, just like we do with anything, with, idealizing what marriage will be like, or, any aspect of our life, I think we can kind of imagine what it would be like. And so even when I found out my kids are going to be staying home, I thought, this is going to be so great. I'm going to have all day with them. We're going to get up and have these wonderful breakfasts. We're going to learn how to make homemade bread. We're going to go for walks every single day. We're going to do art class at home. And I had all these lofty ideals and aspirations of what it would be like. And then I think it was probably 1 week into it, things started falling apart at the seams. And Mike would come home from work, and I was trying to work from home and be with the kids, and he would come home and I would just be in such a bad mood after being home all day. And and then I remembered that when my kids were little, I'm so glad that I could stay home with them, but those were some of the hardest years of my life. And so of course this is taking on some of the flavor of that time. What has been, especially with 3 kids that are at home with you now, I'm sure it's much different than it was when you were just homeschooling with Lily. So what has this past year been like for you with all 3 kids home?
It is definitely more challenging than when they were younger and there was just 2 of them. I mean, when we started, Lily was in kindergarten and Judah was just doing preschool here and there. And so the work was easier. I was just teaching how to read and numbers and, simple things. And now I've got a 6th grader and a 3rd grader. So the work is more challenging. They need more hands-on, help with their actual schoolwork. And then I have the 4-year-old who needs hands-on with preschool and the activities that he has. So that is the most challenging part, is just being spread between all of them. And if you can imagine the amount of questions that I get in a day's period of time from 3 children, I feel like I tell Jared, I'm like, it's just back-to-back questions all day long. Like that's how I feel. So
and your 4-year-old, and your 4-year-old is not a quiet. He's not a quiet, passive, laid-back, chill kid, right? My brother and his wife, they have 3 boys. And they call their 3rd their grand finale. And I kind of feel like that's what Oliver is in your family. He's Woo! He's all the fireworks rolled up in one little boy.
That's a perfect way to describe that. I like that. Yeah, I make it.
So I'd love to get into some practical ideas and tips from a mom that, you've been doing this for a lot longer than I have been, and for many of the moms who are watching. And, just personally with my own friendships, I've talked to, several of my friends who were just like, there are moments that we all feel like we are coming apart at the seams, that it is just so overwhelming and so draining. And because you just get in such a good routine, and then to have all of it flipped on its head, it's kind of like when your kids go into summer break, you're prepared for that, you're gearing up for that, but there's so much to do. There's vacations, there's swimming, there's outdoor time. But now it's like all our kids are home, but there's so much uncertainty, even with the schoolwork that has to be done. And a lot of them are doing Zoom calls, and then they have packets, or they have other materials, and there's emails from all these different teachers. And then you multiply that times multiple children. So do you guys have like a routine that you do every single morning to get your day started? Or are you more go with the flow? How do you handle that?
I am definitely more of a go with the flow mom. We do not start our mornings super early because I'm not a morning person. And there comes times where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it. We're going to get up and we're going to have a complete schedule set, and we're going to go for it all the way. And then I just always tend to fizzle out with it because it's just not what works for us on a daily basis, because it just goes against how we flow as a family. So I'm definitely more of a laid back, go with the flow, kind of flexible homeschooling mom. So there is routine because I believe that kids need routine, but I'm definitely flexible with it. So, and because my older two are really kind of self-starters, they kind of get up and start their work on their own. And they just kind of get into it. Like Lily, she's just self-motivated. So I hardly have to do anything with her because she's just get up, get to work, and she just cranks out the lessons that she needs to get done for the day. I should say that all of their schooling is online based. So the only thing that I'm doing with workbooks and things like that is for Oliver. So, the curriculum that we use for the older two is just kind of all encompassed into their online curriculum. So it's easy for them to just go through. Now, my 9-year-old does need more hands-on work. I have to sit with him to get him to focus. And I just feel like homeschooling is very trial and error and just figuring out what works for each kid that you have, because they all learn differently. So it's very much a process of figuring out what's going to work for each child the best.
I think everyone just breathed a big sigh of relief when you said, I'm a go with the flow mom and I can do this, because I think they're feeling, well, if she can do it all the time and she's not super structured, super routine, and you can make it work. And I love what you said about kind of figuring out what works for you, because I feel like we're so, it's so easy to go online and get all these ideas of what works for other people. And it sounds like a good idea in theory, and you're like, oh yes, this would be so amazing. And so we print out charts and we make schedules and we buy the dry erase boards and the planners and all, we do the Target run and we think this is going to solve all of my problems. And in 2 days, none of it's working. And then I think you feel like, well, something's wrong with me. There must be something wrong with me if this is working for this person, but it's not working for me. And so I love that you said to figure out what works for you and for each of your kids too. And it kind of made me think about my oldest daughter, the one who we started homeschooling a few months ago, that I kind of did that with her. I had this routine and a schedule and, okay, this is what we're going to do all day. this time you're going to do this subject, then you're going to go to this, and you're going to go to this. And we just realized that for her, she would rather do 4 hours of math and only have to do math once a week or twice a week rather than do math every single day. And that is one of the benefits of doing an e-learning or distance education or learning from home is you really have the freedom to adapt and to cater the day to work with your own children's strengths instead of making them fit into a mold, right?
Yes. And I think just figuring out, even just some people just need a routine, and that's how you're going to work best. And that's some kids, that's how they're going to work best. But I think even through a process of trial and error, we've figured out like, okay, they have this limited amount where they can really focus. Like Judah has this limited time where he can be all in before he starts really getting distracted. And so you just learn those little things. Like this kid can focus better in the afternoon. So we're going to focus their work in the afternoon if that works for them better. Or that's what I do with Oliver a lot, is we end up doing a lot of his preschooling workbooks and things like that after his nap because it just works better for him. And it helps me because I can help with the kids in the morning and not have to worry about him so much. So just being flexible and learning what's going to work for each kid has really been the best for our family.
You know, there's kind of a trend going around right now with women to kind of be more vulnerable and be more authentic. And, you know, you often see these different memes or pictures of the mom with the, you know, her hair in the messy bun and the yoga pants and the t-shirt with the stains on it. And it's kind of almost funny, like, I'm a hot mess, I can't get it together. And I appreciate that. But then on the other hand, there is the thought of, you know, maybe you are the hot mess, but we don't want to stay there. We don't want to live in that place. And there are going to be days and moments that you feel like that's where you are. But when it really comes down to who you are and what your life is, I don't think that's the place that God wants us to live as far as being a mess all the time. So what do you do when you feel like you're, you know, in that place that you just can't get it together, nothing's going the way that you wanted it to go? How do you transition from feeling that way to being in a place that you feel like things are rolling and are smooth and you're kind of in the groove?
I feel like I said, I kind of go through phases where I'll try to be like super on top, organized, motivated, come up with a schedule and a routine, and then I kind of slump down because I feel like when we put like these extreme expectations on ourselves, we don't meet them, and then we get into this feeling of failure, and then everything just starts declining from there because a lot of us, for our personalities, if we can't accomplish it all, then we just kind of feel like we can't accomplish anything.
Right.
And we just let it all slide down. So I think just being reasonable with your initial goals. And I definitely agree that we shouldn't stay in hot mess mode all the time. I think I try to give myself freedom for, this is just an off day. And this is just kind of one of those hot mess mom days. The kids are also hot messes. Like, today is just not working to the best that it can. And just having grace in those moments where, okay, so we need to refocus. Maybe I'll sit with them and do a devotional. I'll be like, listen, we're all in a bad mood. We're all grumpy. We're snapping at each other. Nothing is getting done, and we're demotivating ourselves because we're frustrated. So let's stop. Let's take a break. Let's do a devotional together or separately on your own if that needs to be how it goes down. Have some time of worship or music or even just like fun and dancing. We like to put on Disney songs and just decompress a little bit and just refocus. And for me on my own, that's a lot of what it is too, is I get to a breaking point where it's just not working to be a hot mess anymore. And it's not only my job, because this is full time for us, this homeschooling is full time. I have to prepare my children for when they are going to be in places where they have to get up early. They have to get up early, they have to show up, they have to be ready for a job, they have to be ready for whatever it is that they're going to do in their lives. I can't just let them live in hot mess mode, because that's not equipping them for life down the road. So we can't just be relaxed and lazy every day, because at some point they have to figure out how to function in their adult lives, which require more of us than, being lazy every day. So it's definitely a balance, and some days are easier than others for me, but that's just how it flows in our house.
It kind of reminds me when you were talking about, where you try something that doesn't work and you just give up. It's like when you try the new diet or the new Whole30, or you're going to go keto or whatever it might be, and then you eat something you shouldn't, and you feel like, well, what's the point now? It doesn't matter. You're like, I'm just going to eat all the junk food. I'm going to take this day. This day is ruined. It doesn't matter anymore. But it's so true that you can always redeem the day. You can always bring it back in. And I think part of that is praying and asking God, help me to be led by the Holy Spirit today, and to know what do my kids need today? And maybe they do need you to get up and say, hey guys, we're not doing any of our schedule today. We're going to go do something fun. We're going to stay in our pajamas and play games and have a movie night or whatever it might be. But that doesn't mean that that's what every day looks like. And I was struggling a little bit, especially at the beginning, because I kept hearing people saying, this is our chance to just be more relaxed and be more casual. And, but I think for my kids, a schedule does really work the best for them. And we might still kind of hold it a little loosely, that we adapt with it. But I heard Craig Rochelle say recently, kind of addressing some of these special needs that are happening right now during the quarantine. And he said, don't rob your children of having a schedule, especially when that's what they're so used to. And so that has worked really well for us. But then I do have some friends who, their kids are just really struggling. And it's more than just struggling with the schedule. It's struggling that their entire lives have been turned upside down. They can't see their friends. They can't see their teachers. Some of them have really special connections with, their sports have been canceled. Their dance classes have been canceled. Church, they can't even come to church anymore. So I do think it's important that we're sensitive and, really asking God, how can we love these children, right?
Yes, definitely. Because ultimately that's what our main priority is. Even if we've been thrown into the role of teacher, or, you're trying to teach and you're working from home. And there's just like, by the way, you mothers are in my prayers every day, because this is our life all the time. This is the life that we chose. And with the exception of not being able to go to church, everything is still like routine for us. Nothing is too completely out of whack for our family. But those of you who everything has just been put on your plate, you are in my prayers, because it is hard. It is completely hard to have all of that at once. Like I've seen this thing shared around Facebook. You're just not made to have all of these things on your plate at the same time. Like usually, you go to work if you're a working mom, and you come home and then you put your mom hat back on, and we're not used to having to have all those hats on at once. So having grace for yourself is really important right now. That you're doing a great job, even if you are struggling.
Yes. Speaking of that, Brandy, what do you do to stay filled up with 3 kids? Like you said, you feel like it's one question after another. And I know my kids know when I'm grouchy, it's stay away from mom time. Don't ask her questions. So what do you do to stay filled up so you have something to give to these children all day long?
Coffee. Lots and lots of coffee.
I hear ya.
But other than that, I know that our days go better if I focus my morning on God. So if I try to constantly some sort of devotion that I'm going through, because it's easy for me to not have to think. So through the Bible, the YouVersion Bible app, I've actually been going through this morning devotional that is called Overwhelmed by My Blessings. And I was so happy to find that there are like multiple parts of this devotional. So I finish one and then I just go on to the next part. And so my best days when I'm actually on it, which I will be honest is not every day, but I get my coffee and I sit down and the kids know basically leave mom alone till the cup of coffee is gone. So during that time with my coffee, I will go through that devotional and I will just focus on the fact that I'm going to be intentional today to just pour out love to them as best as I can and be as patient as I can. So it just helps me focus and start the day off on a good foot to have that time of devotion. It's quick. I can read through a day. Sometimes I'll read 2 days at a time if I missed a day or something. And I can get through them in 10 or 15 minutes. And then I pray. And then I just feel like it helps me to really start the day off on the right foot. And then sometimes you just need a break. I mean, it's 24/7, 7 days a week with kids, you know?
Right.
So I get to a point where I'll be like, Jared, I just need to go. I just need you to take me somewhere and leave me there for a little bit. And just, it's important to have your alone time, especially if you're an introvert as I am. I'm re-energized by alone time. So I definitely need that. And if I don't have enough of it, my patience can start to dwindle down to nothing. So I will say, Jared, I got to get out of the house. Or I'm a night owl. I stay up late. When everyone goes to bed, I'm up a little bit just so I can have my personal space and time because I know that's what I need. So figuring out what you need is important, and making time for what you need is important. It definitely is.
You know, my heart especially goes out to the single mom right now who is doing all of this on her own. And I've often said that single moms are the real superheroes in our world. If you want to meet somebody who is a modern day superhero, who is saving the world, you know, who is doing the absolute best they can to pour into their kids and keep everything together, it's the single moms. And there are some women too who they feel like single moms right now because their spouses are maybe in the medical field or having to work more, or their spouses are home but they have checked out because they're fearful or depressed or, you know, scared of what the future is going to hold. So would you just take 60 seconds and talk to the mom who is just feeling really overwhelmed and drained right now?
I have been praying for you. I just want you to know that. Like, top of my prayers, what God has put on my heart during this time has been for you moms who are on your own or who are working and trying to parent. I can't imagine the heavy load that is on you. I just want you to know that you are doing an amazing job. Okay, it does not feel like that. I know it does not feel like that. All of us moms are so hard on ourselves.
Well, it looks like we may have lost Brandy. Oh, there you are.
Oh, here?
Yeah, keep going.
So,
keep going.
I just want to say you guys are doing great. I know it doesn't feel like that. I know it's exhausting. I know that you are overwhelmed because we all get there, and I can't imagine having all of these plates that you have spinning right now at one time. But God is with you. Call out to Him. Reach out to Him. Spend time with Him. Spend time in your Word, and just be honest with Him, and reach out to others. If you need to vent, you need to say, these kids are driving me crazy. Like, you need to find that safe person. We all have someone we know who we can reach out to, and it's going to be safe to say, I need you to just listen right now and encourage me, and I just need to vent. And sometimes that is the case. And reach out. Don't isolate yourselves. Don't pull back. Don't think that you are the only one struggling. Don't think you're the only one failing. We are all there on different days. We've all experienced it. You are not alone. And God is there, and He's there. He is an overflowing well that you can tap into for peace and joy and patience and all of those things that you need right now, strength. He has it all for you.
Thank you, Brandy. That's so good. And thanks for being here with us today. And girls, I wanted to let you know Brandy is going to be on here later today doing a show on parenting. I know I'm going to be tuning into that. But at the end of the day, if we can pray for you in any way, please message me, comment, email me, send me a text message. We want to be here to pray for you and to know this, that you are not alone. You are not alone. And whatever stage of life you're in, whether you have young kids who are home with you, maybe you're grandma to some young kids and you're having to babysit more than normal, maybe your aunt or even great grandma is watching today. Thank you for everything that you're doing. We love you. Thanks for being here on the Pink Seat, and I will see you again next week.